Just so you know, it still hurts when you talk to me. You're still the one thing on my mind before I fall asleep. Wish you were easy to forget. Every time I try, you somehow wind up in my head. Tell me, what am I supposed to do? How can I get over you? I wish I could find my strength. When it comes to you, I can't escape. I try to run away as fast as I can from you. Wish I could make you feel the things that you put me through. Working out myself on fire.
Open the pod bay doors, Hal.
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
Mark Wrong Tower, this is Albatross 1-3, requesting permission to land, over.
I don't need a computer to tell me how to land a damn airplane.
6.
Heads-up display, check.
5,
Lasers, check.
4,
Particle beam, check.
3,
Proton bolts, check.
2,
Chair control, check.
1.
Let's do it.
Broadcasting from a secret underground location somewhere in Mos Eisley. This is the Docking Bay 77 podcast. Make yourself comfortable. The show is about to start.
Hello and welcome once again to the Docking Bay 77 podcast. My name is Tim Brown and I'll be your host for this episode. Regular listeners will notice that I am the guy who tends to show up when the subject is music, and oh man, have I been waiting for this one. This is the sequel to last year's episode on the same topic, bands you should be listening to but aren't, underrated bands that we think need more attention than they've gotten. We true music nerds love nothing more than taking rank newbies and putting new sounds in their ears. We love it. Oh, you like that, do you? Try this one. Yeah. What about this? Yeah. So what we have done is gotten together 3 of us who are the music gurus. We've each picked an album by a band that we really like, but that most other people probably don't know about. And then we've picked a couple of test subjects who have never heard any of these artists before, and we're going to get their initial thoughts on each one, and then we're all going to talk about them together. All right, so who do we have with us tonight? First up, we have the gurus. In addition to myself, please welcome a man who you hear at the start of each episode, guitarist and YouTuber Eric Brock. Eric, how are you, sir?
I'm good. What's up, boys?
All right, and rounding out the gurus is artist extraordinaire John Wright. John, how are you?
First of all, let me apologize to everyone for my voice. I've been in intense rehearsals with my new death metal project, Bloodbath and Body Works. No, I'm doing good, guys. How you doing?
All right. Well, I am doing well. Like I said, I have been looking forward to this one pretty much since we ended the episode last year. So, all right, moving on. Let's meet our test subjects. Subject number 1 is friend of the show and the guy who helps Dayton keep everything running behind the scenes. Please welcome Disney John. How are you, sir?
I am so happy to be back. I too, like you, was waiting for who's going to give me more music that I can listen to and what bands are they going to be. I got to say, man, this was a difficult decision for me to like try and rank them because they were like 1A, 1B, and 1C. There was no 2 or 3.
Yeah, there's and well, we'll get into that later. But yeah, it's a very diverse collection tonight. So yeah. All right. And finally, please welcome test subject number 2. It is Liam Lewis. Liam, welcome back to the show.
What are we going to do tonight, Brain?
All right. Same thing we do every night, Pinky.
Listen to new music.
Right.
No.
Awesome.
You said you wanted a test subject.
Well,
That's good.
You want to elaborate? You got one.
And this is why we have him on the show. All right. So I say we just dive right in here. And let's start off with Mr. John Wright. John, Who did you pick? Why did you pick that album? And what do you want to tell us about it?
Well, my band of choice is probably arguably the best known out of the three that we have tonight. My band of choice is a group of guys from the little subgenre of post-hardcore. I picked Thrice with their return album, To Be Everywhere Is to Be Nowhere. I first stumbled onto this band via my wife, of all people. A coworker of hers was playing it one day, and she got to curious as to who they are. Started looking into them. Said, "Hey, I think you might like this." And lo and behold, as those of us with wives know, our wives are generally almost always right, and she was in this case as well. I don't know. I just really dug into these guys. Normally, for me, my music is either the thrashy stuff or sung by guys who look like your high school girlfriend from back in the 80s with the big hair and all the makeup. So to go down this route, I kind of like these guys a little bit more. They're most socially active there's more social topics on this album than there are in some past albums of theirs. There's some political issues addressed on this album. Like I said, this was a return album from them. They'd been on a 4-year hiatus and decided that they were going to get back together and quote unquote reform. Although lead singer Dustin Crusoe had said, when they went on hiatus prior, that we've never broken up before, and at this point, I don't think anything can break us up. We're just taking a break. So, I just really dug it. My wife and I went up to see them in Columbus on this tour. We've seen them down at Bogart's a few times on this tour. They're just a really cool, and they're a really different type of band for me.
All right. So the way we're going to do this is we're going to ask our test subjects what they thought of it first, and then the rest of us will get to chime in. So let's start off with Liam Lewis. What were your thoughts on Thrice?
I really, really dug this group. I really enjoyed like how heavy but still melodic they were. When you get into like the more hardcore end of the metal spectrum, it just kind of turns into noise for me. I like to still be able to hear the notes. And so Thrice was really, really good for that. It kind of reminded me of the Foo Fighters song that they play at the end of the first Thor movie, or the end credit song for the first Avengers. I can't remember who sung that one. But it just had a very like I could see this in a superhero movie, like anti-hero vigilante justice. Like I feel like if The Crow had been made in like the 2010s instead of in the 90s, like this would have been very heavy on the soundtrack. I thought it was really, really good. I enjoyed the topical, the social issues that they addressed in the lyrics. I really, really enjoyed the guitar work. I thought that was really good. And I felt that the lead singer had a lot of really good raw emotion.
All right. Awesome. All right. Moving over to you, Disney John, your thoughts.
I honestly have to agree with Liam on this because this is something that I actually wrote down. It was very much kind of that superhero feel. Like I was thinking Transformers though. Like where you could hear some of this metal rock coming. I'm sorry, John. I know but it's that good kind of rock that like is so exposed but not. I mean like I've never heard of Thrice. I will say off the top, I've never heard of any of these three bands. I loved Thrice. I thought Thrice was great. The guitar work was excellent, but like the music, I agree. Like it is a very much like big epic, like those big power movies that came out, and Transformers for me, because I've been a big huge Transformers kick because they all dropped on one of my services lately, and I could hear these songs like playing in that sub score going through. Now I didn't get any of the social, I didn't get any of that kind of stuff because I'm not the words guy. I know I've said this on the show before. I'm much more the music. I want to hear the musicality of it, and I agree that it gets edgy for me in some areas, which is perfect because sometimes that's all I want. I want that noise, I want that metal sound, but then it goes off into like kind of this I don't know about Foo Fighters so much, but like it definitely goes on off into its own sound, and I really like it because it stays melodic and then it gets hard and it hits the drums and then you hear the guitar come in and it just I don't know. I like them. I like them a lot.
They feel like I'm amazed that I haven't heard them on the radio. It feels like this is music that everybody could get behind. I don't know why they're not on the radio all the time. These
Yeah.
people should be mainstream, and I don't get why.
It's a very post-hardcore. I never knew there was such a genre until just a little while ago.
I was about to
So
say
it's
you
not-
said those words, and I was like, "What?"
Yeah,
But
They-
it
I mean, they
describes
were-
them.
I'm sorry.
It describes them perfectly though,
Yeah,
post
I mean,
hardcore.
and they're from the hardcore movement. So a lot of their earlier stuff, if you guys go back and listen to their earlier catalog, it's a lot heavier than this. There's a great project they have called the Alchemy Index, which I think is 2 or 4, I can't remember, small EPs, and they're all like recorded differently. Like one's more acoustic, one's a little bit more rock, one's a little bit more this, one's a little bit more that.
Mhm.
And I mean, their lyrics are very spiritual. Curacao, or sorry, Kinsru, the vocalist and lyricist, worked for Mars Hills Church for a long time. Which, if you know anything about that, don't judge that man because he worked there, because he obviously didn't follow the teachings of the so-called leader there, and follow the true path. But I don't know. I mean, the Foo Fighters comparisons I think are fair.
Okay.
Because Foo Fighters are also considered in that they delve into the post-hardcore stuff.
I mean, I'm ashamed to say I haven't listened to as much Foo Fighters as I would have liked. I was literally just thinking of that one song that they play in
No,
the end
and
of the first Thor.
It's totally fine.
I don't know if the rest of the catalog matches.
It's different. It's different. I mean, this album was, like I said, their comeback, and it originally was planned to be a concept album. When they were recording it, they're like, it just doesn't work as a concept album. We just need it to be free and looser. So they
Mhm.
kind of scrapped the concept idea. And I'm kind of bummed Dayton's not on here, because I'm not sure if he would appreciate or this would piss him off, but all the songs fade out and fade in into the next one. There are no hard stops on these songs. And
That's always been a sticking point of Dayton's on a lot of.
It sure has.
we've
But this
talked
was done.
about.
It was done intentionally to keep the album flowing. They wanted this feel. They wanted one track to flow, almost seamlessly into the next. So
I like that though. Like it seems like I don't know why Dayton doesn't like it, because I haven't heard him talk about it before, but I feel like some people might consider it lazy, but honestly, like when you really listen to artists that do that, it's harder than you think it is. And so I enjoy it myself, and I'm always really impressed when somebody can do it and do it well, cuz like that, making the entire album just one long song almost with the fade ins and outs is like, it's harder to do than you think it is, at least to me.
And, and I have to say that when I originally listened to this, and you just pointed out, John, I didn't consciously understand that, like the fade out to fade in thing, because when I listen to this stuff at work, so it's always in the background for me, so it was always going. But I always thought, like, man, this song hasn't ended yet, right? It's just got this nice transition into the next piece, and it was good. And now I understand why I always thought this was the longest album, is because
not by a long shot.
No, not even close. Because I mean, the next one I think we're talking about is actually probably the longest album. But yeah, it was just like, it was the longest song, I guess, is more what I thought. Because it had a momentary pause and then on to the next, and it just kept going. It was an ebb and flow, and it was well done. Which also then talks to, and this is something I'm only now picking up as I just listen, because I do this stuff with you guys. The track listing and the track selection and how it is laid out really
Yeah.
matters to how this album works together musically.
If you're going to be ambitious and try something like that where you're trying to weave all the songs into the next, yeah, then it definitely matters.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and even then, so we've talked about on previous albums where the first one that came to mind was Extreme Six. That album is so front loaded that the second half of the album suffers greatly, in my opinion. But luckily on this one it didn't. And Tim, I don't want to steal any of your thunder, but do you mind if I ask these guys a question?
Go ahead.
So, guys, out of this, what was your favorite track?
Blood on the Sand.
Oh man. Okay. Okay. I don't have an answer for you. I liked the album itself. Like for me, the album, it was very good. There's nothing that I just sat there and like, why the hell is this on this album? Now that will happen later on another album, but like this was a great album from beginning to end. I thought it sounded like the same. It had the same sound throughout with the minor changes from going from like maybe slightly heavier rock to some like, I don't know, I don't want to say metal, but like some harder ballads and stuff. Like they were much slower songs, but it sounded the same. It had a cohesive sound throughout. And I really enjoyed that about this particular album. I just was sitting there going like, this is great. Like the other two albums, they actually musically change for me throughout the album, particularly the one that I know that we all know I'm talking about. But this one it had a great sound from beginning to end, and it sounded like the same artist throughout the entire album. So for me, it was a very difficult one. I do have ones for the other albums, but this one I was like, I liked it. I liked it from beginning to end. It flowed. It was musically appealing to me.
Yeah. And Liam, you said Blood on the Sand.
Yeah, I do agree with John. Like, it's hard to cherry pick one moment because it's such a cohesive piece. Like, it's like trying to pick your favorite section of Starry Night. It's like you can't pick one brush stroke. It's a whole painting. But I got to go with Blood on the Sand just for that chorus, because that chorus slaps so hard.
The opening line of "We wave our flags, we swallow fear like medicine. We kiss the hands of the profiteers and their congressmen." I mean, yeah, that's I love stuff like that.
Yeah, I did
Hell
like that song. One thing that stuck out to me, and this shows my particular brand of music nerd. I'm always really into the recording side and the songwriting side, so I'm always looking for the smart choices that were made at those points in the making of the music. And The Window stood out for me for a very specific reason, because so much rock music, metal music, what have you, is done in that straight 4/4 time signature, 1 2 3 4, 1 2 3 4. But the most of the song, The Window, actually switches it to a 7/8 time signature, but they keep the drums kind of playing this almost straight, like it's trying to be a 4/4.
Mm-hmm.
It's got 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 1 2 3 4, and it's like there's a missing beat in
God,
the
you're
pattern.
a music nerd.
So it really does a great job of building this kind of tension and anxiety. Like you almost feel like you're kind of uneasy and a little bit nervous listening to the song because the rhythm is just a hair off. And I love that smart choice that they made there then it really lent to the tone of the song. So I love when bands make those smart choices.
I've got it on my ears right now, and I know the song. I realize what you're talking about, but to me, it just seemed like it was almost syncopated. Like between what that 7/8 was to those drums just being that offbeat, it almost felt syncopated at a few points where it was just like da 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 da. I know it was like I don't know.
No, if you count it, if you count eighth notes in a 4/4 time, there should be 8 eighth notes.
Yes,
there's only 7, so there's that missing note. It's kind of like you're tripping a little bit if you're trying to walk in time. You're kind of stumbling a little bit here and there, and you never feel like you've got your footing under you.
That would be me playing the drums.
All right. All right. So does anybody else have anything they want to say about Thrice?
I liked To Be Everywhere Is to Be Nowhere. It was just a solid opening. Like just so good.
All right.
That was a good track. That was very good.
Good one. All right. So we're going to move on now to album number 2, Mr. Eric Brock. That is your pick, sir. So what do you want to tell us about your selection?
I picked Hope and Ruin by the Trues. I picked this album basically. I think it's a good representation of the variety of music they do. Back when I was a little younger, man, I used to play ice hockey quite a bit, and we would go to Canada a lot for games, and that's how I discovered them. They're pretty well known in Canada, and I remember hearing them on the radio, and I thought, who in the world is this? Because it was really catchy and I liked it, and found out it was a band called the Trues, and I had never heard of them before. And so before I left the country of Canada and came back home, I went to, I forget what the mall was called right there in Toronto, but I picked up a couple of their albums that were, I talked to somebody that worked there and told them what I was looking for, and they said these are the ones I would get, so that's what I got. But I have all their albums now, and it was hard for me to pick just one. But like I said, I think this one is a good representation of what they do.
All right, so let's move on into the test subject reactions. Disney John.
Okay, so totally different album. Like the way that I will just, so you're informed. I listened to Thrice, followed by the Trues, followed by our last band in that musical order. That's how I listened to them. And this hit different when, like, once Thrice was over. I mean, I instantly could tell the difference that we had changed bands. Like sometimes musically, a lot of bands will sound similar, but once we changed from Thrice into the Trues, I was like, oh, this is new. Okay, this is different, and I liked it. It really, I don't know. It reminded me of, and I apologize, but it reminded me of some 80s good bands, like good bands, not the bubblegum rock of the 80s, but it reminded me of like the better bands of the 80s, where it was like this nice smooth tone, really nice drums and guitar work going throughout. Lyrics were nice. I did not, again, I don't get the words, but musically it was nice. It was pleasant. It was a little less hard than the last one, so it was kind of a reprieve for my ears. So it might be what drew me to it. But I really liked the Trues quite a bit.
This would be the vanilla pick of the three that we're discussing tonight.
Oh, that's a good way to, you know what? That's a good way to present it, though.
It definitely won't shock Tim and John that I picked it, because they know that I go for the catchy melodic stuff more than just about anything. So
yeah, but I mean, but catchy melodic is what works too. I mean, like it's like it really draws you in quite a bit. I mean, I like this music. I mean, we'll get into that later, but I liked the music from here. I really liked how the Trues presented themselves. I enjoyed it. I went back and probably listened to this one a couple more times than some of the others. Cause so for me, like the One by One song was one of my favorites off of this album. I just like that melodic, da 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 da. I was like, I appreciated that.
All right, Liam.
I'll say two things too. That, like, number one, sometimes you just want a nice scoop of vanilla ice cream. There's nothing wrong with that. And number two, I don't think it's like you're like off the street vanilla. I think this is like a really good, high quality French vanilla.
Amen. made by Tillamook. There you go.
Gourmet vanilla.
Yeah, there it is.
Yes. Overall, what did you think of the album, though, Liam?
I really this was my second favorite. I really loved this one a lot. It reminded me in a way of I am a huge Green Day fan.
Mm-hmm.
And this kind of reminded me of Green Day in the sense that like the lyrics of some of these songs have like a lot of emotion in them, but the actual music itself is such like a bop and a jam that
Right.
like you can't get like it reminded me like of like When I Come Around in Basket Case. Like the actual lyrics are like kind of sad, but like it's such a vibe that you can't get like bogged down in your emotions because it's just a jam. But they reminded me a lot of like Bare Naked Ladies and Jack Johnson, like
Mm.
just really really good like you know like some of the songs will like make you laugh and like overall it's just a really good road trip vibe.
Oh yeah.
This would be great for like driving around California. We're going to see Michael Sam for the week of Thanksgiving, so hopefully we
There you
can pop
go.
this
You got
into his
some sound. You got some tunes for it, man. Because
yeah,
you're right. This is great road tripping music.
it's good stuff. I really really enjoyed it. There are a couple animes that I've watched that had end credits songs that sounded like this. So that was fun. I really enjoyed them musically. I really like this kind of like it's not yacht rock. It's like road trip rock. Like it's a very smooth like
Oh, this
you're
is not
not
yacht rock, buddy. No.
no, it's
No.
not, but it like it's rock that you play driving along next to the ocean. Like you're not on a boat. You're like driving to the beach.
Yacht rock
Like
adjacent is what you're saying?
yeah.
Okay. No.
Geographically. You're not like the yacht rock's over here on the boat. And then we're on the land over here with the truce. But no, it's funny because the last time we did this, we had a Canadian band. Eric,
Was
did
that
you pick
under
that
the
one
sea?
too?
That
Was that
Eric's
the
band, yeah. That
Great
was
Big
Great
Sea?
Big Sea.
yeah, Great Big Sea?
Yeah, that's the sec. Yeah, you're coming in clutch with these Canadian bands. Keep them coming
Mhm.
because I love me some
It started
Canadian
with his
bands
Rush
apparently.
fascination, and then he got into hockey. It's
Yep.
just kind of all Canadian for
Great
Eric.
Big Sea, man. I still listen to that actually.
Me too,
Yeah,
dude.
yeah, me
I listen.
too.
I've downloaded all of their albums and I listen to it all the time.
So
but
good.
I'm gonna have to
Yeah.
do the same thing with our boys, the Trues, because
Mhm.
this is a jam and I really loved it.
All right, all right. Yeah, I liked this one a lot too. I mean, my notes were just solid playing and songwriting.
Mhm.
All right, anybody else agree with me or disagree with me on People of the Deer, the chorus? Tell me if that doesn't remind you a little bit of Mammoth WVH.
Yeah, I got that
Like I
vibe.
definitely heard that in there. Yeah, which I know, Trues has been around a lot before, so I wonder if like, well, maybe Wolfie might have some Trues albums somewhere in his collection.
I really liked Love Is the Real Thing and You've Got to Let Me In. I really liked those two tracks.
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot of good ones.
I mean,
I
they're
don't
all
have the
good.
track list right in front of me, but yeah,
Yeah.
I found a lot of good songs on this album.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I started playing this one, automatically, if I hadn't known who picked what, I would have automatically known this was Eric. Because I'm like,
Oh wow. Okay.
just like 2 seconds in, you hear the guy's opening lines. It's like, oh yeah, he's Canadian. It's gotta be Eric then. I was waiting for him to boot.
Where's your
Speaking of
toque,
boot, no.
eh?
Where's your toque? Let's go play some shinny out there on the ice pond, eh?
Let's have a Donnybrook. Go time.
But as I really dug these guys. Again, we've used Foo Fighters a lot. We tend to use that a lot, but I got a Foo Fighters vibe off of this to a certain degree. If you added a couple extra guitar lines to most of the songs, you'd have a Foo Fighters song.
I can see that. I see where you're going with that.
Yeah, but the song I really dug is I'll Find Someone Who Will.
That's my favorite one on there.
Oh, I forgot about that one. Oh, it's
That
so
is a
good.
freaking sleeper of a song, man. That is so well done.
Yeah, agree.
There's a couple tracks on this one that I found myself skipping, but I think it's only because I listened to it the most out of everything.
Right.
So there's a couple tracks that I'm like, these are good, but I want to get to find somebody who will. I want to get to find somebody who
Right.
will.
Yeah.
I totally forget. See, that's the other one. That like each one of these has like a chorus song where like when you hit that chorus, it's so good.
Yeah,
And like that's the one for this album.
And please, Eric, I mean no disrespect by this at all. I could see somebody like, and I don't know why this occurred to me this afternoon. It could be the fact that I'm still suffering from a nasty fever and everything, but I could see like a Taylor Swift or somebody doing a cover of that song and it being freaking huge.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, for sure.
It's got that pop. It's got
a good song is going to be a good song.
It's got that pop sensibility about it.
Yeah, it does.
Well, that song's got like 6 or 7 hooks in it. So,
oh yeah,
obviously it was going to be my favorite.
Yeah,
I mean, I love the fact that it's written like you don't know if he's talking about a girl or if he's talking about a band.
Right.
You know, does he want the band to break his heart? Does he want the girl to break his heart? But either way, it works.
Right. Yeah. Something I noticed listening through this album that stuck out to me was in a lot of places there's almost like an updated old school Southern rock feel. Like I was definitely hearing like 38 Special.
Yeah, I got that too.
Yeah, I definitely got that kind of a vibe.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah, that see, you guys articulate the things that I feel, so I appreciate that. But that's exactly that you are correct. It is an updated like, that's wow. Yeah, I'm not going to repeat it. You did well. Yeah, seriously, that was good.
It's kind of like Bare Naked Ladies and 38 Special had a baby that was adopted by the Foo Fighters.
Yes. Well done, sir.
Yes.
We got there. Yeah, but that really is, I mean, that really is it though. I mean, like, because there were a few times on, it might be what's coming up next, but I had some Dave Matthews Band feels on a couple songs.
Oh yeah, Dave Matthews Band. Hell yeah.
I mean, no horns, right? But like it definitely had some beats and rhythms in there that I would attribute to him.
I love Dave Matthews. So yeah, that's totally true. Yeah.
All right.
Sorry, I had a thought and then I lost it. You can cut this part out. You can just cut out my weird.
He won't. He will leave your awkward.
He will leave it awkward.
No, don't leave it in. No, I'll look like Dave, please.
He may even time stretch it to make it longer and more.
Your downfall, sir.
Oh, don't do this to me. No. Put like auto-tune on it.
Let's quit giving him ideas when he gets to editing.
He doesn't listen to these things. He just puts it out there.
Dayton's just gonna upload it. He's not gonna give it crap.
All right. Anybody else have any thoughts on the Trues? All right, then let's move on to album number 3.
I can't wait.
My pick. The band is called Thank You Scientist.
Contender for what I believe to be a mess. All I know, when you never put it to the test. You ask me if I wanna dance some more. I tell you that I do. You raise me up.
They were formed in 2009 in Montclair, New Jersey, when guitarist Tom Monda met some other musicians in the Montclair State University music program. They were all Frank Zappa and Mahavishnu Orchestra fans, and frankly, that all tracks for me. When I thought of how to describe them, my initial thought was, think about the really good concert jazz band at your college, and then imagine if they said to each other, hey, you know what'd be really cool? What if we started doing prog metal instead of jazz, but we keep the horns and the violin, and then we get a singer who sounds kind of like a late 70s era Michael Jackson? That'd be neat, right? So I picked their second studio album from 2016 called Stranger Heads Prevail. And I chose that album because when we were originally planning out this episode, suggested during doing a curated playlist for each band instead of an album, but still limit it to 8 or 9 songs to keep it roughly album length. So that's it to say that did not go over well with Dayton.
No.
And since it's his show, we will play by his rules, which is absolutely, I get what he was going for. So then I had to ask myself, though, what album would I pick? And so I looked back over the playlist I'd created, and I noticed that of the 8 songs I had picked, roughly half of them were from this album. So that kind of pointed me in the
interesting.
of this one.
Well, there's your answer.
Yeah. So let's get into this one. Reactions. Disney John.
By far my favorite album.
Me too.
I loved the eclectic collection of sounds that assaulted me in the best of ways. Like it was like it literally in the best of ways. It was surprising at every turn. I was never bored with this album. It like, what is next? Like, if I had to say any of the other 2 albums are great to have in the background and listen to, I actually had to listen to this album because I was like, wait, is this a new album or something? Because like every song was different. And oh my God. Okay. It's interesting that you chose to represent your album, the Mr. Invisible track, because it is probably my favorite track because it I think represents this band to a T with how many times it changes within this 7-minute song. A fabulous
Get out of my
listen.
head, Disney John.
I mean, seriously, it was surprising to me. It caught me off guard. It was different. Literally every turn I was just like, oh, this is really good. Oh, this is really good. Is this the same album? Like, I mean, there were a couple times where I really asked myself, like, is this the same album? Because it was like, it changed.
Did Spotify just start throwing in random songs on you?
It really, it felt like it. I mean, but they all told the story as they go through. And I loved it. I mean, I really loved this one.
All right. Liam?
Tim is healthy for you. Tim wins this podcast. Hashtag Tim is healthy for you.
Did you hear that, Dayton?
We're going to get this hashtag going, damn you.
Right. All right.
No. This was 100% my favorite album of the 3. Like all of these albums, I feel like are at least a 9. Like I love all of these albums. I love all of these artists, but this is exactly the type of weirdo bonkers type. Like you're preaching to the choir. You picked the exact right audience to present this album to. And this artist.
You did.
This group is so good. It reminded me kind of like Big Bad Voodoo Daddy. Because like during the like big swing revival, because they have a lot of like swing and jazz work, but a lot of their songs like are kind of spooky. And if this album, I feel like would be great on like to play at your Halloween party next to like Creature Feature and Repo the Genetic Opera. Like honestly, like it was such like artistic freedom and like just reveling in like how weird and awesome can we make this. It kind of like made me think of like Fish in a way, but like if instead of being stoners, they were like really into both jazz and prog rock at the same time.
Yeah, definitely that Fish vibe.
If we added a horn section to Fish and made them like goth as hell, and I love it. It was so good. You picked. I loved. Honestly, Prologue, A Faint Applause was really really good.
A good one.
I really liked that opening track. It's so good. The way the album, it's so weird because you're right. Like each track feels like it's written by a completely different group, or at least from a completely different album.
Right.
But yet at the same time, when you listen to them all in a row, it feels very cohesive. It does feel like one solid, well-presented thought. And I gotta give a shout out to Mr. Invisible just for the saxophone work. Like, like we're just gonna like it sounds like there's fire coming out of the saxophone. Like he's playing the saxophone so good that fire is shooting out of it.
No, I will say that the choices of song titles also really drew me in as well. Like it was interesting. Like they started off with prologue, a faint applause, and they started off with that, and then they just kept going through all these like a wolf in cheap clothing. Like it was these really good. I don't know. There were smart choices in their song titles as they
I
went
love a
through.
kooky title.
Yeah,
I love a kooky title. I love me some
the
wordplay.
Amateur's Arsonist Handbook. I just
Yes.
sorry. I really enjoyed this album quite a bit.
Yeah. When I discovered this band, it was just a random Spotify pick after something else I'd been listening to, which was almost going to be my pick for this episode, which is another band that I'm not going to mention because I may save it if we do another sequel to this one.
Save that juice, Tim. Save that juice.
But it popped up and I was like, what is this? And it gave me Mr. Invisible was the first song. And I remember thinking, it starts off with this really quirky kind of eclectic guitar riff. And then these horns come in that to my ears sounded like a straight throwback to Doc Severinsen and the NBC orchestra on the Johnny Carson show.
Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, here comes like young Michael Jackson singing some R&B, and then we rip into some prog metal, and I was like, "What is going on right now?" So that definitely perked my ears up, and I thought, "All right, I got to find out more about these guys." And then I dove into the rest of the catalog, and I was hooked on it. But does anybody else got anything else they want to add on that?
I'm anxious to see what John thought of it before I make any comment.
Okay.
Oh boy. John has thoughts.
I guess I'm going to have to be the first to, and that's fine. It's only fair.
So the buckle up moment for the show.
Yeah, we're getting into the buckle up moment of the show.
You won't be the last.
Let me preface this by saying there's a lot of talent in this band, and anything I say is not taking anything away from that. But for me, this just didn't do it. I feel like I'm not as big a progressive guy as Tim is, or probably even Eric for that matter. But I like my progressive stuff. But the struggle with progressive, just like there is in any other genre, is you've got to stand out. And sometimes I think you can stand out a little too much. I feel like the majority of the tracks were fun listens to, but I also felt like I was listening to a musical, which kind of took me out of it a little bit. Reminded me like of a Broadway stage show or something like that, which may have been the whole intent of it. In this particular case, it didn't work for me. It's I had some notes originally written down and I decided to scrap them, and I wanted to go back and listen to it with fresh ears. But my notes were kind of inspired by my online time here with Mr. Brock. I had like 3 key takeaways. Is like, it's too long. Not every instrument deserves a solo, and it's too fucking long. I will now yield the rest of my time to Mr. Brock.
I mean, sounds like somebody just doesn't have the stamina to get through it.
It's nothing about stamina. It just does not connect with me.
It's an assault on your ears if you don't like it. I get it.
No, it's not. There's nothing inherently bad about it.
Not saying it's bad. It's just an assault musically because it's so conflicted.
There's too much going on in there. I must be too simple. There's just too much going on in there.
This hits my edge. I will say that.
Speaking as someone who will willingly and more often than he'd care to admit listen to all 17 minutes and 5 seconds of Inagata Davida, I will always take another solo from an instrument.
What stuck out to me, and then we'll let Mr. Brock chime in. What kind of summed them up to me was when I did read that they were all initially big Frank Zappa fans, and if you've ever listened to a lot of Zappa, that kind of summed it up for me. I was trying to figure out early on how
Yeah,
to
it clearly
describe them. You know,
shows.
here's your jazz band, here's your R&B stuff, here's your metal. What is this all kind of doing? And then they said Zappa, and I was like, oh, that's it. And Zappa, he's very polarizing. Nobody argues his musicality or his intellect and his ability and the people he surrounds himself with to play with, but you either like it or you don't. And I think Thank You Scientist kind of falls into that category, which is kind of, I think, probably why we're talking about them on an underrated bands episode rather than as the top 10 of their genre. So that kind of tracks for me, honestly, John. Eric, what were you gonna say?
Well, going into this, I really wanted to like it because I knew how fired up you were about them. But I just I got to note it. Basically, it's like if Frank Zappa and Coheed and Cambria blended together, but
Oh my God.
they just couldn't write songs. It's
That
like
is- oh,
everybody in this band is obviously really talented at what they're doing, but I just don't think the songs are there.
Mhm. It's funny that you said Coheed and Cambria because early on in their career, the singer of Coheed and Cambria discovered them, and he's the one who actually signed them to his label.
Oh, well, there you go. I mean,
We have
I'm a
him to thank for
huge,
this.
yeah, I'm a huge Coheed and Cambria fan. I love them.
Yeah.
So, but
They've been instrumental he was instrumental in this band's career.
oh, okay. Yeah, like John, I just did. I mean, this is one of those albums. Like, there's parts of it I go, oh, that's really cool, but then after it's over, I never go back and seek it out to listen to it again.
I think it keeps my mind involved because, like, I've got Rube Goldberg variations playing in my ears right now, and it is a interesting experimental kind of jazz, I'd say, that they go through, and it's so varied. It just keeps me occupied, mentally. Just keeps me going.
I almost wonder if this band, speaking about Eric's talking about, the songs just aren't there, but then, something like Rube Goldberg Variations being so experimental and kind of out there.
Mm-hmm.
I almost wonder if that isn't the point. They get together as Thank You Scientist and they do this experimental and they get weird and they just throw everything against the wall and see what sticks. And then maybe you can take that to other projects and say, oh, this was a cool thing we did. Let's sprinkle that in here. That worked over here. Let's sprinkle that in on this project. So I feel like there's merit to it. And I also kind of see what Eric's saying, although on the whole, I disagree because I just love these guys. And I think definitely they fall into that category of more people should know about them, whether it becomes your favorite band or not.
I look forward to putting them into an all Thank You Scientists playlist, like grabbing more of their catalog and making a full playlist of just them and see if I like it still, because I really did enjoy this album quite a bit. I enjoyed the weirdness of it. It's not normal music that I would listen to, so I think it hit me at the right time, so I really liked it.
All right, the thing I'm going to add on here is since we did not do the playlist version of this, I'm gonna tell you guys for your follow-up homework to go and look up their single that is the cover of Eddie Murphy's Party All the Time.
Oh my God, no way.
Yes. So go look that up and then come back and tell me what you think.
I unashamedly love that song,
And also,
so I cannot wait to see what they do
find
with
the
it.
music video.
Party all the time, you say?
Yes. All right. So, anybody else got anything you want to add about Thank You Scientist?
The weirdness levels also kind of reminded me of They Might Be Giants. I don't know if anybody has listened to a lot of that.
Yep.
I feel like these guys would totally do a version of Istanbul, not Constantinople. Like they are that weird. They would do a weird pull like that.
Yeah. Yep. Just in between songs, give you a few bars of that. So
yeah. Kind of like Jim Henson on the Muppet Show, just like I'll pull out We Have No Bananas Today because I hung out looking at vaudeville in London, and I thought it was funny.
Right. All right, so that brings us to the big question for John and Liam. Rank these 3 albums. Just give me a quick 3, 2, 1.
Thank You, Scientist, number 1. The Trues, number 2. Thrice, number 3. It's nothing personal to Thrice. Like, please understand that really all of these guys are coming in first. I'm just choosing at which one gets across the finish line like an inch sooner. It really is a 3-way tie. I had to rank them the way I did just because Thrice is like for like when I'm kind of like angry, so I'm not always in that place. So that's why I put that there. It's just I'm going to listen to it slightly less than the others just because I'm really going to lean on it when I'm in a specific emotional state, and I'm not always in that place.
All right. John?
I'm only slightly different. My 1A would be Thank You, Scientist. My 1B would be Thrice, and Trues would be number 3 or 1C.
1C. All right, got it.
Sorry,
Okay.
they were. I did not dislike any of the albums that we were given this time. Like last time, I had a couple ones that I didn't care for, and I would listen to all of these again. Every single one of these I would listen to again with no problem.
For sure, I downloaded the playlist on Spotify that we made of the 3 albums. I'm not going to be removing it from my download.
No, it's good.
Soon. I'm gonna keep that in the back pocket. I'm gonna need that later.
All right. So the follow-up question to that for both of you is are any of these going on your playlist going forward? Are we going to keep hearing more of these? Are you going to seek more of these guys out?
100%.
All 3 of them, yes. There's no doubt in my mind.
100%. That, like I said, the Trues are going to be road trip music. Like Eric's coming in clutch with our road trip playlist. Like driving up to Michigan this summer. We did a lot of Great Big Sea, and that was really just a jam. So driving around LA, we're going to see if we can get some of the Trues going. It's a vibe.
I'm driving to New Orleans and Texas this November, so same. I'm going to be having some Trues, probably some Thrice, and some probably not Scientists. My wife, I don't think would like that one, but like definitely the other 2.
Thank You, Scientist is going to go on my spooky
that's my
playlist.
That's my personal playlist.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Well, I think that pretty much is the goal of doing these episodes, is to give somebody that hasn't heard this stuff before the chance to try it out, see what they think. Hopefully put some new stuff on your radar, give you something to think about, and for us, the 3 gurus here, to give us the chance to share something that we feel strongly about, that we have a great passion for. And it's always great to bring more people into the fold that way. I'm hoping the listeners, based on these discussions, are going to go and check all 3 of these bands.
I hope so.
Yeah.
As Master Kenobi would say, you've taken a first step into a much larger universe.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely nice. That's the goal, is to get more people listening to more music. We have a tendency, I think, in our society to get focused on the stuff that is popular, or just the stuff that makes it into your favorite shows or your favorite movies. And a lot of times there's a lot of stuff out there that just isn't really hitting that level that is as good, if not better, than some of the other stuff that is really, really catching the public's attention. So we want to shine that light over there and get some recognition for these guys going forward. So
more music, more better.
Yes. All right. Anybody got any last words?
Yes, Party All the Time was really good. I did my homework. I did my homework while
I
was listening.
John was like me in school. He did his homework in class.
Yep. It was very good. Yeah. Yeah, you guys are turning me into some music nerds, okay? I'm not gonna lie. Like next time, I think next time I'm gonna choose out a band. I mean, it's not gonna be a surprise at who it is, but I'm gonna choose out an album next time.
I would also like to pick a band. I've got like 3 locked and loaded.
Yeah, we're gonna put the music.
In the words of Mr. Burns, excellent.
We may have to do our own podcast though, because there's a band that it's one of my favorite bands actually, and they've got a ton of albums, but they're the kind of band that their good songs are fantastic, and their non-good songs aren't really good. So I had put together a playlist of about 20 of the songs that I like from them, and they were going to be my pick for this. And then Dayton dropped a bomb on us that it had to be one album.
Yep.
It couldn't be like a hits album or greatest hits or anything like that.
Well, and
so it
to
threw a
defend
wrench into
Dayton,
it.
I don't want to put words in Dayton's mouth, but my
Well, it's his podcast. He can do whatever he wants.
well, yeah, I mean, but it's simple. That kind of makes him sound a little more like the dictator, and we don't want to try and treat our buddy like that. So what I feel like is, you know, he has a say at the end of every episode. Physical media is better than streaming. So an album is a self-contained thing. So let's focus on an album rather than 8 or 9 different songs spread out across 6 albums from a band we like. Although my argument was that that's kind of the way when we're showing stuff to people, like, you know, when somebody would come over to your house in high school and you would go up to your room and start throwing songs on the record player or on the cassette deck, or even if you're a little older, the CD player.
Yeah.
You would say you would put this track on and say, oh, did you like that? And then you'd go digging through and grab the other album from a few years ago by them. Oh, if you like that, you'll love this. And if you like that, you're going to love this. So that was my thinking in the playlist out. Yeah.
That's why people make greatest hits tapes.
Mixtapes. Yeah, we made mixtapes for each other.
Which we've all done that. So
I think the best way to talk about this though is like, if you only had one album to hand a person, what album would it be and why would you choose it to introduce somebody to something?
Yeah.
And I think that's what his whole premise for this is like,
and I kind of like that better because it makes us work harder. I feel like
it does.
You gotta
Yeah.
like every album has its strengths, every album has its weakness, and you gotta not only find which one like best represents this band that you love, but also like once you've picked that one, like you gotta like talk about the strengths and like defend the weaknesses, and you know I feel like it makes us work harder.
And sometimes there's a recency bias as well, because it could be the latest album. Like so we did Billy Strings on this podcast a year and a half ago now, I think. It was during Let's Make Dayton Uncomfortable month, and
yes, I remember that month well.
And he listened to Billy Strings. I mean, like, he is not a bluegrass fan, but I'm gonna tell you what, bluegrass is. I mean, like, I've always liked country and bluegrass, but I listen to a lot of Billy Strings now, and he's got a concert coming through, and I'm like, how can I afford to go to his concert? Because he is an amazing guitarist, and his bluegrass is like amazing, and he just had a new album come out, and it's just been been an incredible listen. Like, I like, for me, like, Billy Strings would be one of the albums I would make you all listen to, because I know it would kill you.
Yeah, that was one I was invited to be on that episode, and it's my aversion to country and bluegrass, and that is so strong I just could not get there. But at the same time, I got to give props to Dayton for trying it out and apparently not hating it. So I mean, it definitely, it's kind of in the vein of this episode we're doing here. Try something new. Try something you haven't listened to before. And who knows, maybe you hate it. And maybe it's something that you're like, oh, I didn't know that this existed and I love it. And now you got to put it in your playlist and add some to your collection. So that is the goal. So it's like Liam said earlier, more music, more better.
Yep.
Well, and I also like this methodology too, because both in picking an artist and in picking an album from that artist, you have a fun game you can play where it's like, oh, do I play it safe and go with something that I feel like a lot of people like, or do I go like really weird and be like, oh, you want my choice? Try this.
I dare you to like it.
I dare you to like it.
Yes, yeah.
Which I feel like is probably going to be me if I'm ever allowed to pick an album for one of these episodes. I feel like I'm going to have nobody on my side, but you never know.
All right. Well, I think that's a good place to wrap this one up then. And let's just leave it with, we're going to dare the listeners to try some new music. All right. So
what are you, Colonel Sanders? Chicken?
All right, so I want to thank our test subjects, Disney John. Thank you, sir.
It was an absolute pleasure.
And Liam Lewis.
A delight as always. Thanks for having me. I hope to return soon.
All right. And we're going to move on to the gurus now. Thank you, John Wright.
Thank you.
And I hope you feel better soon, sir, because that still sounds like you're definitely feeling the struggle in the throat.
Oh, you know it.
I think he sounds sexy.
Yeah.
He should go record a blues album.
No, I'm telling you, man, it's all about the death metal project, Bloodbath and Body Works.
That's it. Nice.
We're playing the food court next Thursday at 2:00.
Hell yeah. We need to get him a lozenge
man.
so we can get his scream on. Ah!
Your tea and honey, sir. Oh, thank you, Jeeves. And finally, once again, thank you to Eric Brock.
Yeah, let's do it again.
All right. And as always, we got to thank the listeners, because without you guys downloading and tuning in and streaming, we're just a bunch of guys sitting around talking to ourselves and wondering what's on TV later. So thank you guys for being here, and we hope you keep listening. Please visit us on social media and make sure to leave some comments, leave some reviews, share it with your friends, like it wherever you see it, give it the high ratings, because that just puts us in front of more and more eyes and helps this show to keep growing and keep bringing in new listeners and keep giving us a reason to come back and do it every week. Don't forget about the Patreon. That is free to follow if you're on the fence about whether you want to actually donate some money, and it's fairly cheap if you want to get on there and donate to the podcast and help keep that moving along. I want to mention some upcoming episodes here. Remember, November is going to be Pixar month, and they're going to be talking about Toy Story and The Incredibles and Wall-E and Soul and all, just some great Pixar movies coming up. So be sure to keep an eye out wherever you get your podcasts from and look for those. And remember, physical media is better than streaming.
The Docking Bay 77 podcast is produced and edited by Dayton Johnson, recorded with Rode Pod mics, the Zoom PodTrack P4, and edited on Audacity. Opening music provided by Eric Jason Brock. You can find him on YouTube and Bandcamp. Thank you for listening.